Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a great day so far. Today we're going to be talking about major chords. So if you're anything like me, growing up when I was playing guitar, you learn a couple chords and use those for most of your guitar career, but after a while that kind of gets stale, and looking for new chords can be kind of tricky. So that's what I'm here to do today, to show you guys a bunch of different variety of major chords that you guys can use. So let's start with some staples, some of my favorites, some modifications off ones you probably use at home already. So check this out. The first one we're going to do is like a major 7 chord, and it's built off the basic sort of power chord shape you're all familiar with. So check this out. So if we start here on the 7th fret of the A string and create a power chord with an octave on top, that's sort of the basic nuts and bolts of this chord. But check this out. If we add this little 5th shell on top, here's what we get. So what this is a root, a 5th, another root, a major 3rd, and then a major 7 on top. So it's cool, you get that power chord and then this little 5th shell on top. So that's one I use quite often. Now we can change this slightly. What we're going to get is this: a root, a 5th, a root, a major 3rd, and a major 6. It's kind of like a major 6 chord there. Now here's a chord I bet a lot of you are familiar with. If not, it's a good time to learn it. This is a major 7 chord in the same position here. What we get is a root, a 5th, a major 7, and then a major 3rd. Now you can also add the 5th on top of all that with your pointer finger as a bar right here. So you get this. So that's pretty, but that's not really the chord I'm looking for. This is a variation on that. What we're going to do is this instead. We're going to lift the pinky off, and what we end up getting is this: root, 5th, major 7, and a 9, or a 2 in this case. Moving on from that, how about some major 6-9 chords? So here's a common one a lot of people already know. So we get our root, a major 3rd, a major 6, and a 9. So it's a nice 6-9 chord, but there's some variations that we can do, or that I prefer on this chord. So check this out. First one is this. Simply use your finger to bar onto the 6th fret of the E string here, and you get this. So what that is root, 3rd, 6, 9, and we'll call this a sharp 11. So be wary that this is a Lydian chord. It's a major chord, if you ask me, but if you were to play this chord, you would probably use like a Lydian scale over that, simply because of this note right here, which again is like a sharp 11 or a sharp 4. Some cool variations on that one. Check this out. So if we take this chord, which we did earlier, okay, but we add the sharp 11 on top of that, it's a little tricky to play, so take a look. So the way we do this is pointer, pinky, and then ring, middle. Now in order to get the sharp 11, we're going to have to use our pointer finger and sort of twist it so that it hits the 6th fret. So notice my pointer finger is playing the 7th fret and then the 6th fret on the high E string. This can feel a little weird at first, but you'll get used to this, and you can use this in a lot of different chords. So check this out. Now the reason I like that voicing in particular is because we have the 5th degree here and the sharp 4 or the sharp 11 here, and that creates a nice major 7 interval. And when creating chords, I think it's a good habit to find if there's any major 7 intervals that you can place inside the chord. That usually has a really nice rich harmony when you're able to do that. So always look out for those when building chords. Okay, here's another one that I really enjoy. It kind of has more of a suspended feel. It also uses a sharp 11. If you couldn't tell, I like that kind of sound. So check this one out. So what's going on here is we don't have a major 3rd. So what we actually have is a root, a 2, a 5, a major 7, and then the sharp 11. So leaving out the major 3rd and kind of replacing it with that 2, it's kind of like a suspended chord, right? It's like a sus2, but we have the major 7 and the sharp 11. Ultimately, a really cool voicing. Now let's move down the neck a little bit. I've been using all E major chords, so why don't we stick with that? Here's one of my favorite chords. Looks like this. Now what we have here is this. We have a root, a fifth, a 9 or a 2. We have the major third, and then a fifth and a root. Okay. So you can really call that an E major add 2. Now you can use this in other spots as well. If you use A instead, you get something like this. Looks a little different because of that B string, but otherwise, both really useful chords. Now let me show you some other shapes that are maybe a little bit less jazzy. Okay, so why don't we use A as our root this time? So what we're going to do is start by stacking 2 fifths on each other. So we have the root, the fifth, and then another fifth on top, which ends up being a 2 or a 9. In this case, it's a 2. Okay? So from here, all we have to do is use our middle finger to get the major third, and then we can bar with our pointer finger to get the rest of the chord. So this is a nice variation on your typical bar chord. So instead of this, we can add that 2 in there, like this. Has just a little bit more richness in there. Another nice chord, we'll use A again, is a major 7 with a 6 in there, or a 13. So check this out. We have the root, the major 7, the major third, and then lastly we can add that 6 or the 13 right here with our pinky. A variation on that, we can add a 2 or a 9 on top with our pinky just simply barring down. So now we have this root, major 7, major third. We'll call this a 13 in this case. We'll call this a 9. So here we go. Pretty rich chord, right? Kind of jazzy in that case. Okay, let's get into some Lydian or some sharp 11 chords in the key of A this time. So here's some other ones I like to use. The first one is this. We're going to use that thing again where we try to create a major 7 interval in this chord. So we have the root, the fifth, the major 7, and then we'll have a 9 and a sharp 11 on top. Check this out. Pretty nice sound there. Here's another simple chord I use a lot. I've got the root, major 7, and the major third, and then just the sharp 11 afterward. 4-note chord. Now in this case, you can use that open E string on top that adds a nice crunch. Another sort of 6-9 voicing that's really easy to use. The root, we're going to skip a string to get the 6. We're going to continue to bar with our pointer finger to get the 9. And then we can just add a fifth right here. So again, 4-note voicing. Notice this looks really similar to this voicing we used in E. The difference though is that this E voicing has a major third in it, while this one avoids that. But a cool trick you can do with this chord, a lot of players use this trick. You can do this and then add the pinky here to get that major third chord. So going between these two chords sounds really nice. Here's the other one. Okay. In fact, isn't that the Lenny chord? I'm pretty sure it is. Okay, now let's do some simplified chord voicings. I tend to do a lot of jazz voicing, sorry guys. So we'll stay on the 5th fret in A here, and this is a 4-note voicing that's really nice. So we're going to start with an open triad. So we're going to have the root, the 5th, and the major third, and then we're just going to add the 13 on top of that, or I guess in this case a 6. It's not really a major 7 chord of any sort, it's just a triad with the 6 in there, so. Now that one's really nice and open. It has a nice simplified richness, really. Let's move that around. Just a couple more left I'm going to show you guys for today. We'll stay in A, but we're not going to worry about having the low root here any longer. Some really simple voicings. First one, we're going to start with an A triad. Now I call this the staircase shape. Kind of looks like some stairs someone could walk up. So create that, and then you probably know this triad where you bar the top. Basically it's like the top of a bar chord, just without the first 2 notes. But if you add your pinky onto the 7th fret in this case, what you get is a major triad with this 9 or a 2 on top. So like a major, add 9. You hear that all over the place. Another thing you can do is simply change the root to a major 7 instead, like this, right? And then you can grab the root. So there's a couple ways of playing this chord. I'm not a big fan of the whole thumb trick because my hands aren't that big, unfortunately. So in order to do this, you're gonna have to do something like this. So what I'm doing is I have my pointer finger here, then we're skipping a string to get the major 7, and then we have the major 3rd, and then my pointer finger is barring onto the 5th fret of the B string, and then finally that pinky is being added right here. The major 9 chord. So it's a major 7 chord with the 9. Sounds really nice. Okay, coming up towards the end, let's go back to E for just a moment. Forgot a couple. This is a typical Lydian voicing I use a lot. It's really simple. Got the root, the sharp 4, or the sharp 11 immediately, followed by the major 7. Kind of a strange start here. Okay, and then we're gonna add the major 3rd with our pinky right here. That one's really spicy. Now, if you wanted to add a 13 on top, luckily your pinky's right here, so we can do that. Again, super jazz voicing there. And I just want to outline some of the ideas I try to use when writing chords. And you know what? Chord voicings can vary depending on sort of the instrumentation of the song too. If I'm just playing solo guitar versus playing with a whole band with like a bass and maybe a piano or something, my chord voicings might change. You'll notice the first thing is that all of these chord voicings had roots in them. So as a guitarist, if you're playing alone, it might be good to have roots. However, if you're playing with a full band with a bassist, you might not have to worry about playing the roots as much. Also depends on the style of music. A couple of rules of thumb I try to keep in mind when creating chord voicings. The first, and the one I've said previously, is if you can create a major 7 interval, then go ahead and throw that in. Again, one of the chords we did that had that was this. You have one right there. And you also have one right here. So you have 2 major 7 intervals in this chord alone here. That tends to always sound good, no matter what kind of chord you're creating. So another rule of thumb is to avoid flat 9 intervals. So that is an octave that's stretched out by 1/2 step. So for example, the note E on the bottom and the note F on top. Now, especially in like major chords or minor chords, trying to avoid this would be good if you can. So one trick you can do if you ever come across something like this in one of your voicings is you can actually flip the notes around, okay? So instead of this, I can use F and have E on the top, and you get a major 7 interval. So it's kind of the inverse. The last rule of thumb is this: don't be afraid to leave out some notes that you might typically see in a chord voicing. So for example, the most common thing that you can leave out, and the easiest one, is to leave out the 5th interval. What tends to happen when you leave the 5th out of a chord is the ear kind of picks up on it being there, even if it's not. It's kind of a cool trick. So yeah, you can avoid using the 5th in a lot of different instances. So to summarize, 3 rules I'm doing when I'm creating these chords: see if you can create major 7 intervals. Try to avoid flat 9 intervals, especially in the case of building major chords. And then lastly, don't be afraid to leave out some voices and exchange them for some other kind of what you might call color notes. Right, that's been it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I really hope you're able to use a couple of these chords, whether it's in your writing or just your playing, or just, you know, getting a grasp on maybe how some of these chords are created. Let me know if you have any questions about this in the comments. Let me know if you want to know about some other chord voicings. Today, I just wanted to have fun and kind of give you guys some stuff that you can use. Not too crazy, hopefully not too long of a video either. So check out some of my other videos here on the left, and if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe for more musical education content and more reactions, all that sort of stuff. Also, we're almost at 300 subscribers, which is just fantastic. Again, I appreciate you guys so much, especially in the comments, you guys that are engaging with what's going on. It's just fantastic to kind of respond to you guys and just have a bit of a conversation. So that feels awesome. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a great rest of the day.